Well, I thought I'd bring you guys up to date, kind of where we're at with this. After I chainsawed it yesterday evening, I did straighten it up some with a gouge last night. I worked on it just a little bit. I was actually having trouble with my screws holding the thing because this wood, this aspen, is so soft that if I went to pushing on it very hard, I was loosening my screws up. So anyway, I put longer screws in and all. Now, to continue on here, two or three things going to have to happen. I'm going to set up the brow area through here, much like I would if I was actually doing a carving of a face. The other thing is now the nasal spine has been broken off from this plastic model that I have. So I do need to leave a little bit of almost like a nose on here. So let's set up some of that. Now, you guys might have noticed that I already drew on here just some reference. But the main thing here that I'm looking at, you guys, is look at these bone points that I marked out here. See here, I got the bone points marked out. That's going to guide me into where my eye sockets eventually go in there. But to gain some height for that nasal spine, I am going to have to relieve some of this up each side. To the fact, I'm going to turn this gouge upside down. And get a little bit of slope, just like as if you were carving a nose on a face with the flesh there. We got to have a little bit of nasal spine going on there. So I'm relieving up each side of that. I'm going to start dropping into where these eye sockets eventually go. Now, at the same time, I'm accomplishing two or three things here, you guys. My carving stand's trying to walk away from me. But I got to have the height for the skeletal mask, this height right here. So while I'm pushing everything else back, I'm gaining this height right there too. So let's push some of this eye socket stuff back. I've got probably the depth that I need for this nasal spine area. It's almost like a little nose here that I'm carving. And I'll start to relieve some under it, which will actually help me start to round up the dental, where his teeth goes. See this jutting area here where the teeth goes? As I'm leaving the height for the skeletal mask, I'm going to begin to pull this down through here, narrow it up. I do have my chin way back on here, probably more so than I should have. But by the time I gained some of this height I'm talking about, I'm gaining the height by relieving a lot of this off of here, see? And I got to watch out with the grain of the wood here. I may end up pulling way more off than I want. Sometimes while you guys are carving on stuff, you have to pay attention to which way that grain is going to grab and begin to pull. So I'm dropping into my eye socket area here. I'm going to get a little depth here coming in. You see where I'm at right here, coming in and in. And this, where I came down through here, I'm right here, see? Coming through and through both sides here. I'll begin to mound the teeth up and gain some height by, tell you what, let's take a little out from under the skeletal mask. Now I drew the skeletal mask bigger than it needs to be. Hence the first rule of carving is we can always take more off from this, but we can't put it back. So as I'm rounding my, now I got to keep in mind that my jawbone is back in here somewhere eventually. So I don't want to get too carried away because I'm going to need some wood here eventually for that jawbone area. Now, two things I'm going to mess with here for just a second. I'm going to start to pull in the temple area, this bone here, but look how the temple really drops in and behind here. See? All right, so I'm going to leave some room here. Maybe even, oh, this is okay. Now I have to kind of be careful or I might split out some wood that I might need. So I'm just going to hook the edge of this fishtail here. And I'm going to pull in this temple some here. I'm wanting to try to leave this zygomatic arch here firm enough that I can work it later on. I don't want to split it out and break it. I'm rounding up a little on the dentures here. And I might even start to shape the squareness of this jaw here. A little more depth under the skeletal mask. Okay, I can start to square that jaw out a little better. And this will narrow up quite a bit more here. Now, I actually kind of wish that I wouldn't have came in with the chainsaw here as much because the chin button actually protrudes in here a little more. But I have enough depth on this whole skull. Two things I can do to correct what I'm doing. I could open the mouth a little and let this jaw droop down a little to match what's going on. Some depth in between his teeth might actually give this guy some pretty good character too. Even though he's just a pile of bones, we could give him some character by opening his mouth up. So two things I'm going to mess with right now is I'm actually going to drill just a little bit of a hole here. A bigger drill bit might have been better, but it's the only one I could find when I got ready to put one in here a while ago. So, and I won't go real deep, but maybe this deep in there for right now. Okay. Now, I'm going to begin to shape these. This is the only pencil I could see at the moment, you guys. But if you guys can see where I just drew, I'm actually going to begin to dig this depth here out. And as I begin to dig that depth out, it's going to start to shape my skeletal mask a little bit more. And I think I could probably go ahead and pull some here at this temple. I'm leaving room for this bone along the side of that mask. But there's an indentation in the skull here. Let's get Smiley up here for a second where you can see. Right here, see this indentation coming in? Here's where I just came around this bone right here. And I'm leaving room here on this bone underneath. I will dig out some more of this skeletal mask here. But look, the jawbone is back in behind here, right? So I don't want to get real deep in here. But then again, it does come in some. It comes out at an angle. It's almost like when you're carving a realistic face, you always work away from the face, so to speak. Now I'm going to come in here. Get a little depth on the top coming in. Now keep in mind my bone point is here. And there is a bone right here, so I don't want to get too carried away. One thing about doing what we're doing, you guys, is you are actually doing a study of how what the foundation under the face is here. And it doesn't seem like it right at this moment, but you would be surprised by studying this bone structure, how when you do get ready to start doing some realistic carving, that this bone structure it'll be very important to you learning this stuff. So I'm going to start cleaning coming in here. See, by drilling in there with that drill, it's kind of like a stop cut. At that drill mark gives me a place to work into and let that wood come out of there. This is what you might call some deep eye sockets here. I am going to clean up just a little more here. And a dab more here. Now, see where I just stuck that? Here's my bone point right there. I'm right here with that gap where I just went in. I'll do the same thing over here, right here. Then I'll begin to work the skeletal mask a little bit around and out. But we're getting a little slope on the skeletal mask here. We're doing the same thing over here. I'm kind of surprised at how well this piece of aspen, it seems to be working for me. It seems like I'm getting a little deep here, you guys, but I'm doing this for a reason. Remember, I told you I got a little deep with the chainsaw on my chin button. So in order to, I have to take everything back to where I got a little more height on that chin button. So that's the reason it's looking like I'm getting awfully deep in here, because I actually am. And a lot of it will have to do later with these dentures right here. I'll begin to try to get some roundness on this dentures. Well, got a booger hanging there. Okay, I'm starting to kind of like a little bit of what I got, you guys. I do want to work these temples in deeper, but now the cranium back at the back stays wider. Only here at the temple area is where I'm really trying to pull in at. See here? So some of this will pull in, and eventually once I start getting these jaw lines or jaw set up here, and maybe some dentures set up just a little bit, some teeth, meaning, I'll actually take a drill with a smaller bit, of course, than the one I just had, and I will drill through here, and being careful not to get into my jawbone. But also look at the depth here along behind his teeth. I'll get some depth going in there, and all of a sudden that depth will begin to pop this guy out of there. So this is just a step of me roughing in for the eyes. I'm paying attention to my brow bones and my skeletal mask. I have room. So anyway, I will continue. You can see I still got chainsaw marks on top of his skull and stuff. I do like the left-hand side a little better, because see how I got a little more room back here on the skull as I pull that temple in. This one's going to look pretty good. I'm going to have to struggle to keep every bit of the height I got right here. Even if at the fact of I may just have to continue to keep shrinking everything down, you guys, to fit. I know I got a big skull, almost this big now here, but if I have to, I'll just keep going to, and of course, I'll go to my anatomy book. This is not a really accurate thing. So eventually, I'll get this anatomy book out, and I'll really start studying what these bones and stuff do. So I'm going to do some cleaning up here and digging in on these eye sockets, cleaning up the nasal area, and rounding where his teeth and stuff eventually going to be down in this area. And I may even start setting some depth that we talked about here. But I'm leaving this jaw bone, and I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to get some depth here, and I'm leaving the jawbone in the back. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time cleaning this up and adding some depth on my temples, and I'll talk to you guys again here in just a little bit.